So in today's webinar, I'm going to show you how you can triple your income by working less and being your own boss. It sounds crazy, but I did it by just doing one simple thing. I went freelance. And yes, going freelance can be very scary, but as long as you prepare, it will work out. So I can show you how Mo did it. Mo is actually on the call today. So this is him. We met in Chiang Mai about half a year ago. And when we met, he told me he was interested in freelancing, but he wasn't sure where to find clients, if he had enough experience. And it turned out he already had like 5 years work experience as a product designer, just not on a freelance basis. So he definitely had enough experience, but he was worried because most of that experience was within one company and he didn't know if that was good enough, etc. But he wasn't aware that he actually had everything that you need to be a successful freelancer. He had the skill set, he had the work experience, but he didn't know how much to charge, where to find clients, the legal stuff, etc. So I gave him some tips and I told him things about freelancing and what works for me and what doesn't. And today he's working like on different projects. He's charging $70 per hour, probably more by now. His clients are super happy with his work. And once he finishes a project, he very quickly finds another gig. He would be like, oh, I'll have a break after this. But then people reach out to him and he's like, oh, that's interesting. So he gets booked almost back to back and on projects he enjoys working on a good rate. He's now even at the stage where he's going another step with his freelance career, where he's working on passive income, like templates and things like that. But either way, all he needed was just a little bit of information to get started. So I'm going to tell you today what I told you, Mo, back then when we met. So before you get started, I just want to make sure you're all ready because I don't want to waste anyone's time. So this webinar is for you if you have a skill set and you're ready to get paid for the skills that you want to offer as a freelancer. So if you have a job or a job in the past where people paid you for your skill set, then this is for you. If you're happy at work, then maybe there's not really a reason to go freelance. But if you want to be your own boss, create a work life that works for you, have work conditions based on your personal needs, then you're at the right place. Also, freelancing isn't easy. So there will be times where things are a bit tough and you will have to do things out of your comfort zone. So if you're ready to do things that are a bit uncomfortable, then stay. And also, of course, if you're like overwhelmed, underappreciated at work, or if like the simple 9-to-5 office day doesn't work for you, then you're at the right place. So who is this not for? I want to give you value and want to make sure that you will be a successful freelancer. And some of those things might not be ready for you. So maybe you're just not ready to go freelance yet. And I'm not going to be offended if you hop off this call if you feel like, oh, this is not for you just now. But of course, if freelancing is your long-term goal, you'll definitely get information if you stay on this call. So yeah, it's not for you if you just finished a bootcamp or you don't have the experience that you could offer on a freelance basis. I'm just saying that because you could find freelance clients, but it's going to be extremely difficult and it might take the fun out of freelancing. So if that's the case for you, then you might not be ready just yet. If you don't have the skill set or the services that you want to offer as a freelancer, then I recommend working at startups first or agencies just to gain as much experience as possible, because also that will increase your confidence. So you can actually pitch your services to clients and also confidently charge your rate. Also, if you're not ready to actually do the work to go freelance, then also this isn't for you. Like the difference is like with freelancing and in the perm role, like you have a boss that tells you what to do. As a freelancer, you are the one who has to push yourself to do things. So you constantly have to take action and find motivation yourself. So yeah, so if you feel like you have all the boxes and you're ready to go, in today's call, I'm going to show you how to find clients. There's several ways to get leads and convert them. So I'm going to show you some of those techniques today. Also the steps you can take to get closer to your goal of becoming a freelancer. So I'm gonna break them down. I'll also tell you how I started freelancing and how I tripled my income by just doing that. And also how to find those clients consistency and enjoy a steady income. And no, it's not through Fiverr or Upwork. And also how you can market yourself. And it doesn't have to be dancing on Instagram, unless of course it's like a dance school. So it depends on the services you offer. So yeah, my big promise for today is that at the end of this webinar, you'll know the next steps that you need to take to become a successful freelancer. And also there will be a free bonus in the end. So I have a business coach, and she kind of helped me put this together, the structure, etc. And she was like, you need to put an incentive in so people stay until the end of this call. And I think what I'm going to tell you today is reason enough to stay until the end, but it did have a freebie. So you will get that freebie in the end. And it's basically a freelance checklist. But also, if you got my newsletter, you already have access to this. So then you're not going to get any extra freebies except for the information you get on this call today. But yeah, either way, at the end, if you stay until the end, you'll get the link to this. It's a very basic checklist of what you need to do. It's not going to tell you exactly how to do those things, but in this call today, I'm going to dig into how to do some of those steps. Cool. A little disclaimer that you need to know before you start freelancing. Your success depends on what you put in. So it's like with other investments, you have to put something in to make it grow or to get something out of it. That doesn't always have to be money. That can be your time, spending time doing some research, spending time honing your skills. So always invest in yourself. Also, if you're not good at what you're doing, going freelance might not work for you. Even if you find a client, then maybe they won't refer you, or they're not going to be happy. So you're not going to be happy. So make sure you have a skill set. You don't have to be an expert. You will always evolve and grow as you work on projects, but you definitely have to have an idea of what you're doing. Also, if you're not a self-starter, this won't work for you. And what I mean with that is that you have to be proactive. You have to take action. Even if that action means you're finding an accountability buddy. For me, I had to hire a coach to keep me accountable to growing my business. Like the freelancing stuff worked out, but like to go further than just working on one client after the other, I got myself a coach so I have someone who holds me accountable. And also this created some urgency for me because I have this like value for money thing where it's like, okay, I invested in that, so I have to like get something out of it. So I put more in than I would if I would have just done those things by myself. So for example, this webinar, I probably would not have hosted if it wasn't for me having a coach. Also, when you go freelance, you're not going to have a hand-holding approach. You will have to like do those things by yourself. And I highly recommend getting into communities with other freelancers so you don't feel alone. But also, it doesn't mean that you can't get help for your business. So like I mentioned, for example, the coach, you can also also those communities, and also you can outsource, which is also something I'm going to talk about later. Yeah, so when it comes to freelancing, these are the most common questions I get asked by people. And the main one is, what if I don't find clients? So you don't have 50 clients, like to have like 50,000 clients or something. You just need one client at a time. The first client will be the hardest. It's like with everything that we do. So like, for example, the first time you drive on your own. And then after a couple of rides, you're like, oh, why was I even scared of this? So the first client is going to be the hardest. And it's not about getting a lot of clients. It's about what type of client you're going to get. The next question I get asked a lot is, what if it doesn't work out? Well, the thing is, you don't know until you try, right? So maybe let's rephrase the question. What if it does work out? So imagine all the things that you could be having, like earning more money, having the freedom to like just take a day off. If you have a good skill set and you work on delivering great work, then it is going to work out. And once you realize you don't need to worry too much about finding clients and see that things can work out, most people ask me like, okay, am I actually good enough? So if you're already getting paid for the skill set that you're thinking of offering on a freelance basis, then chances are you are good enough. So if you already, let's say you want to offer UX design on a freelance service and you're already a UX designer but permanent employed, then yes, you're good enough. So often people doubt their skills. And in reality, they often are really good at what they're doing. Usually, like the people I meet, those that doubt themselves the most are the ones that are usually really, really good. And also, if you help people in the past to get results, or if you had good feedback on your work before, then yes, you are probably good enough. Okay, so the next doubt people often have is, will people pay me for this? Yes. I couldn't believe how much people pay, especially companies. And it just blew my mind. And it's with anything that's being sold, you have to see what's the demand, what's the quality, what expectations do people have, and how the positioning is. And I think the easiest way to explain this is like this water bottle example. Like the same water bottle is sold at a different price depending on if it's sold in a supermarket, gas station, or at the airport. So do you position yourself in a supermarket, or are you going to position yourself at the airport? So that's gonna depend, like that's gonna impact how much you can charge. And that often, so that's often gonna lead to the question, how much can I charge? As much as you want. As a freelancer, you can set your own price. Of course, it's one thing, finding someone that pays you, but it goes back to the positioning that I mentioned before. So you can say, okay, I'm not gonna work for less than this, but also be reasonable with your pricing. Cool. So usually the real problem people have, and so like all these questions, like people ask me and I try to figure out the pattern. And I think the real problem is that people are worried that it's not going to work out, that freelancing is not going to give them the same predictability and security like you have in a full-time job. But people are, you don't have to be scared, because freelancing is not unreliable, because you can create it in a way where you know how much income you have, like if you pay yourself a certain amount of money each month. So you can create this predictability, even if you don't exactly earn the same amount of money from the clients, but you can create that predictability for yourself. So once you learn how to go freelance, you'll be able to create the work life that you want. You'll be your own boss, which comes with all its advantages, but also disadvantages, because there's nobody you can blame if things don't work out. You can decide when and where to work from. You'll set your own rates, and you will no longer have to do salary negotiations. Like maybe it's going to be it might make you nervous when you increase your rates and then you have to tell your client a new rate. But usually choose a rate that scares you. If it doesn't scare you, you're not charging enough. And then also you can be location independent. So who am I? I'm a freelance UX designer. I did UX design for the last 7 years. And from those years, I've been freelancing for 3 years, actually almost 4 years now. I'm now having regular 5K figure months, but also that's all before tax. So that's the actual revenue. I still have to pay tax and company expenses, etc. And I managed to build a business that works for me. So I make sure I only take on clients that I want to work for and where I can work fully remote, and where I'm genuinely interested in a project. In my first year of freelancing, I was booked almost 30% of the time that I wanted to be booked. So I was still trying to figure out like where to find clients, etc., etc. Now that I have a better idea of how this whole thing works, I'm booked 100% of the time actually that I want to have clients. And I actually have to say no to clients that I can't take on these projects, etc. I also hired my first subcontractor and I'm expanding my business. And I'm a digital nomad as well. So I work remotely and I travel while offering my freelance services. Why am I hosting this webinar? Because I believe that we can and we should create a work life that works for us. We only have one life. And if we spend a lot of time of that at work, then that should be enjoyable. And I'm doing this because I kind of regret that I didn't go freelance sooner. So if I can help any one of you to just do the steps to go freelance like a month earlier or a couple of days earlier, like that's already like, that's what I want to achieve. Also, I don't want people to feel stuck in a situation they hate. That's what happened to me in my last corporate job. I was head of design and it turned toxic. I really dreaded going to the office. And I don't want anyone to be in a situation like this. And for me, back then, quitting my job and starting freelancing has changed everything. So this is why I'm doing this. So while I was working, I managed to go see the Northern Lights, explore different places, spend more time surfing and more time in nature. Took pictures freezing my bum off on snow, and I can spend more time with this is my dad. So the other benefit is like if someone's on holiday, you can just join them, work remotely. He wants to be anonymous on the internet, so I put like an emoji on his face. And yeah, generally you can spend more time doing the things that you want to do. So let me get to the core of this webinar. So now I'm going to tell you a few things about freelancing, but before that, because I think one of the most important things is the mindset. And if you follow me on Instagram, you might have come across the next piece of information, but it's important. So let me tell you a bit more about it. So this is your comfort zone. This is where you probably are right now, and it's where you know things. Things are done how they've always been done, and everything's easy in this stage. And you've probably heard before that to achieve things, you have to get out of that comfort zone. And I recently came across a post from Dr. Julie. I don't know, maybe you know her. She has big following on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And she talks about mental health a lot. And on the post, she was talking about the comfort zone, but also about the stretch zone. And this is where the magic happens. This is where you should be. And I'll dig deeper into that in a second. Then there's also the panic zone. And this is where you want to avoid to be, because once you end up in there, you're unlikely going to make good decisions. And also, as soon as you're in the panic zone, you're going to try to get out of it. And that's not great if your goals are outside that panic zone. Like often our goals are beyond our comfort zone. And yeah, it might feel out of reach if our comfort zone and our stretch zone are very small. So let's zoom out a little. You need to spend more time doing things that are uncomfortable for you, but don't panic you. So this can be asking for a specific day rate for your first freelance gig. For me, hosting this webinar is in my stretch zone. I'm not in my comfort zone. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm also not panicking. So it's a bit of a mix, because it's uncomfortable. There's people I don't know that are going to listen to me, but also at the same time, I know I deliver value. I'm confident in that. So it's in a stretch zone. So the more time you spend in this stretch zone, the bigger your comfort zone is going to get. So if we take the example of the price negotiation, as I mentioned before, getting the first client is going to be scary. And then also talking to the client about your rate. But the more often you get a client and you get another one, and every single time you mention that same rate, and suddenly they say oh yes, I'm going to pay you that money, you're going to get more confident and feel more at ease. So you suddenly telling your day rate will be part of your comfort zone. And for me, maybe, hopefully, hosting a webinar will be part of my comfort zone. My coach was saying, okay, the next step is going to be Instagram Live. It's still in my panic zone, but also I know that one day just showing my face on Instagram was in my panic zone. And now it's I just hop on the story. So make sure you spend time in your stretch zone, and that's when things will improve. So over time, as your comfort zone gets bigger, your goals are no longer too much outside of reach. So here they're already in the panic zone, but before you go grab them and run away from it again because you panic, make sure that they become part of your stretch zone. So yeah, you don't have to be too uncomfortable all the time. And then you can get closer to your goals bit by bit. And then one day you might actually reach your goals. So yeah. A little warning, freelancing is not for everyone. I learned everything about freelancing the hard way. I learned it by Google and learned things doing it myself, but also I made a lot of mistakes that cost me money, for example, not charging clients a late payment fee and things like that, or not knowing enough about what I can do with the resources in my bank account and things like that. So make your life easier by avoiding those mistakes. And also you can reach your goal faster. There's always people that have done what you want to do, and they can provide you with the information so you can get there easier. Listen to their advice. And also be aware that just because something worked for them doesn't mean it's necessarily gonna work for you. So take their advice, but also do what works for you and your business. And also don't waste time like I did, just start. I only took action when I was in a situation that I really hated. And I could have done all of that just a year earlier. And if I think of it, I told you, I tripled my income. So if I would have had a triple of my income a year earlier, the amount of savings more that I would have had, so just get started, even if it's a tiny little step. So yeah, why should someone go freelance? Because it is a bit of a hassle to go freelance and you're going to lose the secure income. And I always say like secure because I don't think a permanent job is secure. So I'm going to show you why. So this is Esther Crawford. She was director of product management at Twitter. So quite an important person. And you would think that in her position, you wouldn't get fired that easily, but she just did this one thing. She posted this on Twitter. It went viral and got fired because of it, because HR and management didn't like it. And also you probably heard of all the mass layoffs at Facebook, Amazon, and other big companies. So you would think those companies are big enough that they can keep their staff, but you're just a number for them. But if you have your own business, you are everything. So you actually have more security than if you're in a permanent role, but that's my opinion. Also, when you work in a perm role, there's always a cap on your income. There's a maximum you can achieve. Even if you're the president of the US, there's a maximum salary that you can earn. But if you're a freelancer, you can always start another side hustle, another income stream. So there is no limit. Also in a perm job, the hours won't always work for you. Maybe one day you want to go to your niece's school play, or you just want to go to the gym when not everyone is there. So you don't have to stick to those hours. Also, you always, like I mentioned before, you're probably going to have less time with family. Let's say one of your family needs to go to the doctor. It's like, can you always take a day off work? Things like that. There's less flexibility in permanent jobs. And there's a set number of days that you can go on holiday. As a freelancer, you can take months off if you want to. Of course, you have to consider that maybe you don't make income, but also if you have passive income, then like what Mo is working on with those templates, you might still make money even though you don't work. So yeah, I came across this statistic a while ago, and the average person will spend 90,000 hours at work in their lifetime. So like just let that number sink in, like 90,000 hours. That's a lot of time. And that doesn't include your commute. So let's try to make those hours as enjoyable as possible. So you can create the work-life balance that works for you. You can literally work from anywhere. So this is my friends and me, we went on the surfing trip, and one of my friends, he had a work call and I only had one meeting. So we just took our laptops, put on a hotspot, and we were in the middle of the ocean doing some work. I don't end this, but you can literally work from anywhere. Also, there's no ceiling to what you can earn. I'm happy to talk about what I'm earning, but also I don't want to I know like some people are a little bit uncomfortable with that, but I also think we should talk about it, because once you realize what's actually possible, then you will see that this is possible for you too. And also being freelance is extremely flexible. Like this day, I just decided to go on a day trip and start work in the afternoon instead, because I didn't feel productive. So you can create a work life that works for you. So let's come to the gist of it. So the secret for going freelance and how to become a successful freelancer is don't focus too much on how you get clients. Focus more on what you can do for them instead, and then they will come to you automatically. So one of the main things when you go freelance is that you have to figure out what you can do for your clients. What's the benefit for them to hire you? So if you take, for example, my UX design services as an example, my clients benefit that they can hire me for a one-off project without having to commit to someone's 1 year salary if they know the project's going to take a couple of weeks or a couple of months time, for example. Also, what's the problem they're trying to solve? So for my clients, it's usually that they want more leads or increase sales. So can I help them with that? Like, yes, I can. What skill set do I have to help them solve it? I have experience in designing apps, websites, things like that. So it's not like, of course, like as a freelancer, you need good clients. So the same way their clients need good customers. So if you can help them get more customers, your clients will also recommend you, which is also going to be a good way to find new clients. So yeah, always make sure what you can offer them. But also, it's your business. So always look what's in it for yourself. So when you go freelance, define for yourself why you want to go freelance. So for example, like also think on, like be clear on the services you want to offer and think if that's something that you can do for longer term. Because you also don't want to confuse your clients with like, oh, today I'm offering web design, but oh, actually I don't like it, so I'm going to graphic design, like just define the service that you want to offer, promote that service. There will be things that you might not enjoy doing. So for example, you might like sending invoices. I don't really enjoy doing it, but also I have to do it. So be aware that there might be tasks that you don't like doing, but also you can always outsource them. Define your target audience. Who do you want to work with? Like for me, I really enjoy working with startups, but often they don't have money. So the ideal scenario, and I'm happy that this happened a few times, is startups that got funding by big corporates. So that way you have the startup environment with the money from a big corporate, but you don't have like these hierarchies and long decision queues and things like that. Also make sure that you set the right pricing. Don't undercharge. I actually see more people undercharge than overcharge, but also don't overcharge. So people don't like to feel ripped off. If you charge a high price, make sure you offer a high value. Also make sure what you don't want to do. So there's no point starting a freelance business and then having the same problems you had in a permanent job. So for example, when I design a website, I make it clear that I'm not a developer, I'm not coding, I'm not going to write Jira tickets and things like that. So set your boundaries with clients early, make sure that they know what service it is that you offer them. So once you've defined your service, you define your pricing. And there's several ways you can go on about it. So one way of doing this is by looking very simply, how much do you want to earn and how much do you want to work? So let's say you want to earn £3,000 per month, but only work 3 days a week. So that's £200 per day. And then you have to add like some tax, etc., and potential expenses, like if you need certain software that you have to pay for, etc. So let's say it's like £300 per day. And based on the service you offer, that's absolutely achievable. And also make sure you get an accountant so you don't like get a surprise tax bill and things like that. But yeah, so basically just calculating how much do I want, how much time do I want to spend? That's one way. Also, I highly recommend getting a shit happens fund, because sometimes a client might miss out on investment, and then the freelancers are the ones to have to say goodbye. Or maybe a client doesn't pay their invoice on time. They will pay it, but you need to make sure that you have the cash flow so you can pay your bills. There's also, so I actually recently had a bit of a wobble because I had like 3 invoices over the last bank holidays, not paid on time. And I paid a £10,000 tax bill. So it was like, ugh. But it all worked out in the end. But like, just make sure you have cash flow. Another way to figure out your pricing is to see how much other people in the industry charge. And that always varies on the skills you offer. So don't compare yourself to like someone in a different range with a different job title, of course. So a copywriter will charge differently to a developer or an SEO expert. And it will also vary a lot on where you offer your services. So my market is in the UK. So I like to compare my pricing to the major players survey. So they do like a survey every year where they ask their freelancers and permanent employers. It's like a yearly survey, and you don't have to stick to it, but it's a good guide to see if you're within the range of what people offer. And depending on your location, there will definitely be other platforms that offer things like that. Also, if you've not heard of major players, they're like a recruitment agency specialized in creative talent. So for me, it works because I'm a UX designer. Always make sure that you find people for your niche, because it will be easier to find clients. And they also sometimes help you with negotiating your pricing. Like when I signed up with them, they were like, oh, you should up your rate. Like you can definitely earn more. So make sure you have a good relationship with people from that industry. Okay, step 3. You have your services, you have your pricing. Now you need to make sure you're discoverable. So it's great when you have an amazing service that people can really benefit from, but it's not so great when nobody knows about it. So nowadays, I actually get most of my projects directly from my website. So if you type in freelance UX designer London, I show up on page 1 on Google. If you remove London, I'm nowhere to be found, but that's enough for me. I get enough clients through that. I don't have to pitch anymore. But also it took me a while to get there. So SEO is not always that easy. But either way, you don't have to have a perfect website. My website is not perfect at all. I just don't get around to working on it. But start with something simple so people can find you. There's free platforms like Notion is quite easy to have a portfolio. You can just create an account on Dribbble, like LinkedIn. You can create like blog posts that then look like case studies. So it doesn't have to be like the fully fledged website. Just make sure there's something there, and you can always improve it later on. So step 4, finding clients. So this one is probably the hardest part. People always think you need to have a lot of clients, and yes, it can be good to have several clients simultaneously. But it also means more admin work, more invoices to send, more emails to check, more ways to figure out how to work with the different teams, etc. And when I started, I think like 7-8 months into my freelance career, I had like in 1 week 7 clients. And like even just thinking about it, it's like I was so stressed out, and the context switching between all these projects was crazy. And I didn't deliver good work because I was just so stressed. And over time, I figured what really works for me is having 2 part-time clients. So now I'm working on one client Monday and Tuesday. I have the Wednesday off, and I work on another client Thursday and Friday. And if they message me in between, they know that their dedicated day is specific days. So if I don't come back to them, they know that. And yeah, but that's what works for me. It also gives me like an extra safety because it's unlikely that both projects will end at the same time. So I could always, if one project ends, pick up another part-time client. Or what I did recently is like just enjoyed only working 2 days a week. So yeah, so instead of finding clients, try to just find one client. Find your first client. And here are some ways to find them. And also because I want to like reward you for actually showing up live on a Monday, on a bank holiday for some of you. I'm going to tell you some information that I'm not going to put into the recording. So I'm not even sure yet if I'm going to publish this recording because it's my first webinar. I don't know if it's useful, and maybe I'll edit things. But if it turns out I'm going to put it live. Okay, so now back to the thing that everyone will hear. Today, because it is the thing where I found my first freelance client, and I think it's the most accessible to anyone, I'm going to concentrate on how you can find clients on LinkedIn. And this is also a way where you can connect with recruiters. And again, this is where I found my first freelance client, and I still get messages from people reach out to me through LinkedIn. So this is going to be like a very, very baby step, a very simple approach on how you can find clients on LinkedIn. And this now, I'm actually going to tell you another thing that I will probably exclude from the final one. And I don't know if you heard of ATS. It's basically applicant tracking systems. So be very aware when you apply on jobs, no matter if it's LinkedIn or anywhere else where you send your CV, that recruiters use those systems. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this after I went through the LinkedIn slides. So you probably used the job search on LinkedIn before. So just go to the job section, type in the role you're after. So for me, for example, it would be UX design, filter for contract roles. You might have fixed term, permanent roles, etc. in there, but they could also be like freelance gigs. And then filter through most recent. So I've also been in a position where we hired someone, and I've also known from other recruiters and other people that are hiring, as soon as you publish a job, you want to see if you're attracting the right type of people. So when you apply earlier on, it's more likely that they will spend more time looking at your CV. And there's a statistic that people, like recruiters, look at the CV like for seconds, like 2-3 seconds, to see if that could be a good person or not. So if you can extend those to a couple seconds more, take the chance. So look for the most recent jobs and apply for those. Also look for jobs where your network. So if you see, okay, so-and-so works there, even if it's a person that you've not talked to for years, you don't have to like message them and say like, oh, can you put my CV in front of this and that person? Just say something like, oh, I've been thinking of applying for this job at company X, and that you're you're working there. How is it working there? Do you recommend it? Is there something that you think I should consider? Things like that. And most of the times they will automatically offer to help you. They're like, oh, it's going to be this team. Do you want me to show them your CV or something like that? So again, use your network. And also it will be easier to opt for jobs with lower number of applicants. So again, if you apply early, and also maybe if it's not a big company, like if you apply for a job at Apple, there's going to be thousands of people applying. But if you apply for a small startup, it's going to be easier to have your CV seen. So yeah, less competition. And also always double check the job specs. So this one, for example, because for me, one of the requirements is that it's a fully remote job. So I put into the filter that it's fully remote, but it's actually hybrid. So just double check before you just like blindly apply to everything. And yeah, most importantly, you keep applying. Don't give up. You might not always get a response. Sometimes you get an automated response. But also you might get those automated responses because of those ATS that I mentioned before. So basically what this is so hopefully that's useful information for you. And the last step of freelancing, I mean, it's not always the last, you can always like iterate, etc., but make sure you invest in help, and you don't have to do everything by yourself. Everything, like everyone who's successful has help. And when I started, I thought I wasn't doing it properly if I didn't do everything myself, because, you know, it's my business and things like that. But no, please outsource. One of the best things I've ever done was outsourcing for getting an accountant. Like I did everything at the beginning myself, like self-assessment and all these kind of things. And the whole time was like, am I going to like, did I calculate this properly? I don't want to like pay the wrong amount of tax, etc. And it just was such a relief also for my mental health to have an accountant. But also whatever you outsource, make sure that you have a basic understanding, because your accountant will make sure that you pay the right amount of tax, but they might not make sure that you make the most out of your money. So for example, I'm now, if I have to pay, like I did last year, £10,000 tax, and I know what day it's due, I'm going to put it into, instead of just putting it into a separate bucket in my bank account, I put it into a fixed savings account. And nowadays you get like 2-3%. And from £10,000, that's like £200 that you just get for free. Yes, you have to pay income tax on it, but it's free money. So always make sure you have a basic understanding of the things that you're outsourcing. Yeah, so get an accountant. And outsource things. Same with other aspects of your business. You can always hire someone for your branding or creating your website. And maybe at the beginning, you don't have the money that you can invest into like other people, but maybe someone on this call is a copywriter, and maybe someone else on this call is a web designer. So the web designer will need some kind of content for their portfolio, same as the copywriter might need a website. So you can always collaborate with other people. And actually, if you're open to collaborate, maybe you can just write down in the chat what it is that you offer, and maybe what it is you're looking for. And maybe you can create some projects together. And also you could then use those projects as a real case example and create a portfolio, like put it in your portfolio. So it's a win-win for everyone. Yeah. So yeah, and get a coach or a mentor. So that's the one thing that I noticed like recently. So I've had a coach in the last 3 months, and the way I see my business now is more as a business. And I know it's like me, like I'm the boss, etc., but I'm kind of like more detached to it, and I can see what my business can do, not just as me as a person. So definitely get a mentor. And again, like I would not be hosting a webinar like this if it's not for having a mentor that kind of motivated me to spend more time in that stretch zone and like reach for higher goals. Yeah, and this might be tough and some of you might disagree. And of course, there are some life circumstances where this statement can't be applied for everyone. But I think the main thing that's stopping you from getting where you want to be is often your mindset. So let me try and shift your mindset a little bit with the next few slides. The only regret that I have, and I mentioned that before, is that I didn't go freelance sooner. So yeah, I'm going to try and change your mindset so you actually take that action and can go freelance sooner. So if you're thinking of freelancing, it can be very overwhelming, but you're already way further in your journey than you think you are. So you might not know where to start, but I just showed you the steps. So now you know what you need to do. Define your services, set your price, etc., etc. You might not think you're talented, but the fact that you're still here means that you subconsciously think you're talented, and I'm quite sure that you are, and I trust that you are. So don't worry too much about what happens next. Worry more about if you don't take action. And you're actually already way further than you think you are. You have a network. Like anyone you know will know other people. So just ask around if someone's looking for that skill set that you're going to offer. And also don't worry too much if it took ages, like since you last talked to that person. Just ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Also, you have a skill set you can offer. Don't worry about being the best UX designer, the best copywriter. You will never be. But you can always improve. So just keep learning, keep honing your skills. Also, you're having a vision. So otherwise you wouldn't be on this webinar. You have a goal where you want to be. So you have something to work towards. And you'll have values, which will kind of create a USP for you, your marketing, and your ideal clients. So yeah, so from here, all you need to do is take action. And there's several ways you can achieve your goals. And basically, there's three main options. One is do nothing, stay where you are. You always have the opportunity to start something, but many people just talk and they don't actually act. And I won't need to tell you that that's not the way where you can achieve your goals. The next option is to take action and do it on your own. This is what I did. And it's not easy. If I would have known just what I told you in this webinar today, I probably would have raised my prices earlier. I would have researched better, I would have asked my network and things like that. There's a lot of information on the internet, so you can definitely do it on your own. But also because there's a lot of information, it's sometimes tricky to know what is it that works for me or for you. Or you can take the fast track, get someone to help you go freelance, outsource things, hire an accountant, get some advisor, things like that. And I mentioned before, my coach is helping me fast track. She's doing, she's done with her business what I want to do, basically create passive income. So having someone who's done it before, just for example, this webinar, instead of what I would have done on my own is I would have signed up to a couple of webinars, looked at their structure, and then based on that created a template and my own slides, etc. For this one, I could just take her template because she's done a bunch of webinars before. So that saved me all the hours that I would have spent on finding other webinars, watching those webinars, etc. So it fast-tracked me to my next goal. So yeah, that's probably also the easiest option for you, just fast-track it. And let me help you fast-track the journey. You can book a free 30-minute call with me. And yes, it's free. There's no strings attached. And I can send you a questionnaire up front, just so I can get an idea where you're at in your career. Have a look at your portfolio so we can use those 30 minutes as efficiently as possible. And then what happens next? So once you book that call, I'll review your portfolio if you have one. If not, I can give you tips on how best to create one. And then on that call, we'll discuss everything, and I'll give you bespoke information so you can get your freelance journey started or improve it if you're already a freelancer. And yeah, make sure that you're more in the stretch zone, not in your panic zone, but also not too long in your comfort zone. So what's the cost? It's 100% free. What's the catch? There is no catch. It's free. But a lot of people are like, so why are you doing it then? And you might remember what I said at the beginning. Look at what's in it for your clients, but also look at what's in it for you. And I told you before, my goal is to have passive income. So those sessions for me are basically market research. The next step for me is offering an online course. And basically that's how I want to have passive income, but I don't want it to be one of those courses that like, you know, people download, but they never finish. So I will, before that, might do like a group coaching program or things like that. But basically, I want to make sure that whatever course, whatever it's going to be like, that it's going to be useful. And I don't know what questions people have when they go freelance. I don't know where they get stuck the most and things like that. So those sessions for me are market research. So that's what's in it for me. So here's the link where you can book your 30-minute call. I'm going to add it to the slides. I'm going to add it to the Slack. One second, I should have probably copy and pasted it before. So this one should bring you to my booking site. So feel free to just book a session. Because I already done a few of those in the past, and I think I won't need that many more to shape my first online course. There's only going to be slots for the rest of this week. And yeah, that's it from my end. I'm going to send you the bonus because you all stayed until the end, so thank you. And yeah, so now is some time for Q&A. So let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself. And yeah, I'm glad I'm done. What can I expect from coaching calls with you after the call? So if you want, we can continue working. So it's just a one-off call. So in those coaching calls, we're just going to see where you are in your journey, what the next steps are that you can take. And after that, if you still want to continue, I'm offering coaching. So I currently have 3 mentees, and I only have like sessions with them every 2 weeks. So if you want, we can discuss how working together could look like if you want to be mentored by me. What price should I start? That depends what service you offer and how much experience you have. So are you going to be UX designer, developer, or is it going to be a service like being a VA or copy? Like, it depends on how much experience you have and what service you have. So I would recommend doing some research on what other people in your industry are charging. And also if you want to charge on a day rate or project rate. So for example, for me, I'm really bad with estimating how much time something takes me. So I prefer working on a day rate. But if you're really good and efficient and good with estimating how much time it takes you, I would go for project rates, because if it then takes shorter, you basically got some extra money. Yeah. Any other questions or feedback? This is the first time I'm doing this, so I would really appreciate feedback as well. But yeah, let me know if you have any more questions. Cool. If there's no more questions, then thank you. Let's stay in touch. You can follow me on Instagram. So I'm talking more about freelancing there. Would you offer coaching, creative fields as well? Yes. So it depends. Like I only want to, of course, offer coaching where it's beneficial. So if it's something I don't know much about, maybe I'm not the best person. So it depends what you mean with creative fields. So if it's like graphic design and things like that, I don't know if you want like coaching, like, oh, can you tell me how I can improve my skills? Then I'm not the best person. But if it's about coaching for expanding your business and mindset, I can definitely help with that. Cool. Nice. So yeah, just gonna let you continue talking in the chat. It's super nice getting all your messages here. Yeah, so basically have 4 minutes left, but like if we finish early, that's fine too. And yeah, follow me on Instagram and talk more about freelancing there. If you have any specific questions, you can email me directly. You can read about freelancing or digital nomading on my blog. And I'm going to send one final email with the checklist, the blueprint checklist, the link how you can book a session with me. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm just going to have a quick scroll if there's any more questions. Oh, it's so nice seeing all your messages. Cool. Nice. Well then, thanks so much for joining and have a good day, everyone.